Welcome to the First Thought podcast at Galway International Arts Festival. I am Paul Fahey, Artistic Director of the festival, and in this series you will get a slice of the festival you can listen to anytime, anywhere. Tune in for fascinating First Thought talks, First Thought Backstage, final hours and more. You can listen back to all episodes via GIAF.ie or find First Thought on any podcast platform.
With the cast of The Life and Times of Michael Coetzee. Let's give them another round of applause. So my name is Charlotte McIvor, and I am a lecturer in drama and theatre studies at the University of Galway and head of the School of English and Creative Arts. This is not the first time the Baxter Theatre Centre has visited us here at the Galway International Arts Festival, your third time in 10 years. We're delighted to welcome you back today. So I'm going to ask our guests on stage to go down the line and tell us their name, your role in the production, and how you came to be part of the collaboration. We'll have a little bit of a conversation up here and then open it up to you in terms of questions or responses to the show. So go ahead.
Sandra Prinsloo. I'm a narrator and I play small parts throughout. There are no small parts. Don't try that on me.
So I'm Lara Foot. I'm the adapter and the director, and I'm also the director of the Baxter Theatre in Cape Town.
I'm Fanny Swaisa. I play Mama Kay and narrator.
I'm Andrew Buckland. I play narrator and I'm a learner puppeteer.
I'm Rashina Ratnam. I manipulate the head of Anna Kay, the goat, Samson, and play some other small plot.
I'm Marcus Schabbing, and I'm an actor puppeteer, and I puppeteer Michael Kay's head and feet.
But not tonight.
Not tonight, obviously.
Nolufe Fenchunje. I puppeteer Anna Kay's feet and play other cameos.
I'm Carlo Daniels. I am the voice of Michael Kay and also on his left arm.
Hi, I'm Marty Kintu. I play the feet.
Hi, I'm Billy Langa and I am a narrator and the other roles.
And I'm Craig Leo, and I'm the Michael Kay puppeteer for head puppetry and right arm.
So Lara, this adaptation is based on a 1983 novel by J.W. Coetzee. Why now? Why did you choose to tackle this text, and how did you crack it open with this ensemble and the companies you collaborated with? Started small.
James Coetzee is such a prolific writer, and his work is so challenging and dense and complex. And I suppose it's like being a mountaineer and wanting to climb Mount Everest. You want to, as a South African theatre maker, I've always wanted to tackle a Coetzee for various reasons, partly to understand this darkness that he embraces and holds so beautifully with such eloquence. And so I had also had a long time dream to work with the Handspring Puppet Company, known them for many, many years, and we'd had a couple of projects that didn't, that fell through, and then got this opportunity with the Theater der Welt Festival where they commissioned me to basically do whatever I wanted to do. And I called Handspring and I said, are you available? Can we look at some novels? And I mentioned Life and Times, and it happened to be the favorite book of Adrian Kohler, who carved all the puppets. And we said, okay, we'll start there. And so we spent several months conceiving of what the puppet would look like, who would be puppets. It was clear to me that Michael and his mother would be the puppets. Puppets hold philosophy beautifully, and made sense to me, obviously, that Michael was a puppet, and then we would do the children and the goat, and then the rest of the world would be the human beings. So it was a very long journey, and it was right through COVID. So we ended up cancelling twice. We were supposed to open at the Theater der Welt Festival, initially with a combination of a German company. That's how Marcus is still with us. And then we had to cancel that twice, and eventually they said to me, just do it with a South African company, because, we couldn't get to Germany. And that was a real blessing for me to be able to work with actors that I've worked with several times and that I know well. And it was, a long journey of discovery and excavation and how do we tell the story. And I'm so fascinated to hear from you how you related to the story, because we've been in it for so long now. I've watched it hundreds of times, and each time I watch it and I listen to the text, I think more about it, or more deeply about it, because the text is so complex. So, yeah, interested to hear what you thought. Yeah.
So for myself as an audience member, one of the things that was so striking is with Michael and his mother, they're so separated so often from structures of support, whether in society or community, and yet you're bringing their story to life through these puppets, and these puppets that are operated by four people at any one time. So I'm wondering, for the actors and puppeteers who created those characters, who created that world, what was it like feeling it out in the rehearsal room and with the text in terms of who these characters were and how you all moved together as an ensemble?
Craig?
Okay. So
I'd say Craig, because I just have to tell you who Craig is, if I may. Craig is one of the top or chief master puppeteers in the world. He did Joey the horse in the head of the horse in War Horse, and he also has done Almeida, a little Amal, who's walked from one side of the world to the other. So he's a master puppeteer.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure there is such a thing. It's interesting. Whenever you pick up a puppet, it's like you've never done it before. I think some of the questions that you asked, one of the things that we use and we rely on very heavily as a team to create a character is the use of breath, because we can't communicate on stage. So yes, we have a kind of a blocking for the stage, and we have the script, but we have the breath to communicate within the group. Creating the character for Michael, obviously Lara's spoken quite a bit about the script, which is very, very informative and very dense and rich. But I think one of the things that make it really special, and that's why I love collaborating with 3 or even more puppeteers sometimes on one figure, is that each human being that's operating is bringing their history and their past and their experience to that character, which layers it to a level that I don't think you could do with a human actor. So that's how we create the character of Michael K. I'm trying to think if there were any other questions that you...
I think for me, because I'm an actor, I'm not really a puppeteer. I've learned. Thank you for the puppeteers who have taught us that. So for me, what I have to offer is my body. Do you know what I mean? Because puppeteers have what they call like puppet time, where you use a real movement, but yet the puppets have their own time. You know what I mean? There's a lot of separating and what's the word?
Punctuating.
Punctuating, that's the word. Punctuating the movement. So that was interesting for me, that because I don't know how to manipulate a puppet, but I know when someone is tired or when someone is sick, I know how they feel, I know how they move. You know what I mean? And then you get the puppeteers, they tell you, okay, we've got now the feeling of it. Now how do we take that and put it into the puppet? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's a bit of a mixture of what Van Niswa and Craig said, because when we started off with Michael, with puppetry, I'm not a puppeteer, I'm an actor, and I have a physical theatre background. So I've also have to let my body get into the thing, and we had to learn a lot, like let go, stop moving too much behind. It's about the puppet, so we had to follow that puppet and follow each other by breathing together, and that was a challenge in the first few days, or first week, or 2 or 3. Or first month maybe, and you finally so you have to, I think, to learn to let go, and that's the nice thing about the puppetry is if you let go, if there's not too much tension or too much ideas or too much managing from the actor side, from my side, then I feel better. Then I feel there's a flow, there's a breathing. Then things happen, and yes, we have a text and we have a story, we have ourselves, and even for me doing the voice, it comes natural, because depending on the postures that the puppet goes through and the movements it does, I can place it in my body, and that kind of creates the voice, and also the emotions and where it sits and the breathing. For instance, when they take his mother's life savings in the play, it's a deep disappointing moment for him, and that sits. You have to place it somewhere, and the puppet kind of gives us everything. And like I said, yes, we have the text, and we combine all those things, and ourselves, and the honesty of all that. So essentially, the puppet leads, and that's what I enjoy about doing this play. The puppet leads the whole thing for us.
So I'd just also like to add, for me, the actual construction of the puppet is also a level to it. So for me, the way Adrian's carved Mama, her face is like worried, and she carries an anxiety. She's heavy. She carries a lot of weight, literally and figuratively. She carries a lot of weight, but she's also soft. She has foam on her, and all of these things, for me, feed into her as a character. And we come together, and it's like it layers. So there's the text, and then Fanny Soa has her approach to the text. I listen to the performance and her choices, her emotional choices, and then I layer my physical puppeteering choice on top of her choice. And then the feet come with their heaviness, and there's an extra layer of that, And then we're often having this conversation. I'm like, oh no, I just wait for you to talk. And she's like, no, I wait for you to move. And I'm like, but it happens together. There's a thing that eventually it comes together, because it becomes almost like for me, it's like a violinist with a violin, like she's the violin which we play upon, and each night it's a different sound, it's a different movement, and that's what I love about this form.
And to pick up another aspect of layers before we open it out to you, there's the acting, there's the puppeteering, there's also the video, there's also the music and the soundscape, as well as the lighting and the scenography as a whole. How did those elements come together in the room, or what were you bringing into the room already decided, Lara?
Well, when I was adapting the text, I adapted it with the film in mind, and I worked very early on the score with Carl Shepard, who's the composer. Quite extraordinary music. So it was a lot of development time before we got to the rehearsal space. I really wanted to work with the film. Partly, we were going to be in a very big theatre, the 700-seater in Germany, and I wanted, the audience to be able to witness the puppet close up. So that was one practical reason, but I also wanted to see the landscape of Michael's journey, the vastness and the beauty of the Karoo and the Swartberg. So it was important for me to also have the film element, which is, again, a layering. There's so many layers to the text, so the layering of the different disciplines helps imbue those characters with the meaning. I mean, for me, it's all about empathy, and when the 3 puppeteers are, literally in the soul of Michael or in the soul of Mama Kay, there's a sort of an imbuing of empathy, which I believe the audience also is complicit, because the audience also has to be creative in believing and feeling for Michael. So music was very important in terms of the emotion of the piece, and then the film, the landscape, and then, obviously working with the lighting, there is a filmic element to the theatricality. So, that all came together.
And for the actor puppeteers working particularly with the music, with the film, what was that like in terms of expanding or giving you more layers to what you were doing?
It's interesting, we were doing some sort of understudy role, like rehearsals, and just like this afternoon, and I realized I don't see anything. I do not, a lot of the time, not know what is happening around and behind me. So I'm completely focused on Michael and the people, the puppeteers, and obviously the actors I'm working with. But very often I'm not aware. I rarely get a chance to see what's happening behind me. So for me, the music is extraordinary. It is that layer of emotion that supports us. Often we need to also work against it. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to get lulled into specifically this kind of exquisite music. But yeah, it's difficult to comment on the background because it's there as something that you experience, not something we experience so much.
Well, if Craig is in the film, so I don't know if he forgot about that.
Just from our audience perspective, at least for myself watching it, it seems part of the breath, part of the world. So to hear that very different experience actually in your body is fascinating. So we can open it out here for comments, reactions from the audience, and we have a roving mic as well, so go ahead right here.
I also just want to say thank you for coming to Galway. It's been really delightful to see your production. I've been studying the works of Coetzee for a year now. And my questions are, they're kind of about the adaptation. Because before I came here, I was kind of thinking, how are they going to adapt the part in the book where the narrative cuts and then you have the first-person voice of the medical officer who finds Michael in charge of Michael Kay's case, not like case, is Michael Kay's doctor. But everyone, I don't want to be kind of like, if you haven't read the book, but if you haven't read the book, it's in the third person until there's this cut, and then there's a first person section where there's this doctor who Michael Kay has appeared on his ward, and it's in the first person. It's kind of like a diary style, kind of there's this guy, he's called Michaels. I was wondering. Now I'm wondering about the decision to cut that. Because I was kind of thinking, it's such an important moment in the narrative structure because, there's this whole kind of sorry to erase this. The critics are really interested in it because it's kind of this moment of kind of authorial, kind of self-consciousness. Coetzee's notebooks say it's kind of the eye of the doctor is kind of his eye as an author. And I was kind of thinking, is there some way in which that actually does kind of appear in the adaptation without the actual
doctor.
Yeah. And then I was also, sorry, this is going on for ages, but I was also interested in the really small change in the last lines, where instead of it being in the conditional, it's in the future. And I was just wondering, is that just kind of it's easier for us to do that, and kind of instead of it being in an imagined third person voice again, it's in Michael's voice. Those are funny things around. I'm wondering about. Sorry for the rambling.
I was very clear that I wouldn't use the doctor's voice. So just for others, it's divided into 3 chapters. And the second chapter is through the lens of a white English doctor who looks after Michael. And it would have felt very wrong for me to tell the story through the lens of essentially a colonial voice. And also, he sort of explains Michael, which takes away the mystery for me. And perhaps when Coetzee wrote it in the 80s, he felt he needed that explanatory voice. And funnily enough, I had to give my draft to John Coetzee to vet. You know, he says whether we can do the adaptation or not. And I said to him, look, I've left out that whole chapter. I've left out the doctor. And I was quite worried. And he wrote back to me and said it was the right decision. So, also, of course, you can only have, it's already 2 hours, and you can only have, you know. But I understand the question because it is a big part of the book. The only thing we allude to is the cricket. We've got a cricket bat. That's about part of, you know, because the doctor looks out over the cricket lawns. And then your last, we put it in both Michael's voice and the narrative voice. So it did give, I suppose, gave a glimmer of hope in the end. But I understand that question too, and I'll go home and have a look and see. Maybe it shouldn't be like that, but that was the choice we made.
Other comments and questions right over there.
Thank you. I was wondering how much of the puppet's movement is described from the script, or is it something that's choreographed once the script is completed? How do you get to, I guess 2 things. Is movement described in the original script, and once the puppeteers get the script, how much of it is developed or workshopped during practice? If you could speak to that process.
Yeah, I mean, the scenes are in the script, or like in the rehearsal room, I would say, well, let's use a blanket as a trampoline, or, you know, these boxes as a, you know, to show the drowning or the pool. But all the puppetry is done in the room with the puppeteers, and it's workshopped, and with Basil and Adrian, who are from Handspring, who actually direct the movement of the puppet. So, but that's all created by the, in fact, everything is created by the performers.
Yeah. I remember that we also had loads of certain elements, certain moments. We had talks, like, for example, the moment when his mother dies. I remember us sitting together and talking about if we've experienced loss and how we would physically, if how it affected our body. And then it came up a lot that people felt like the floor was pulled away or their knees were giving in. And then we just, this sequence started developing, and then we just, I think Lara just said, improvise, go with it. And then no one said stop, and we kept collapsing, kept collapsing. And then that kind of, we realized that kind of works. And then that kind of became that sequence. Similar for another metaphoric moment with the blanket. So it was talks, and then just improvising, and then images appeared.
And I think that's what, when I was saying early on, how we bring our own experience to the play, that's one of the ways that we do it, is that the movement of the puppets is text, but it's not text that's in the book. It's text that is made up of our experience and our feelings towards the text, but also life experience around death or journey or exhaustion. So there's a whole lot of
It's hard to
various
write.
topics.
I mean, there's been questions about, well, how do you write that down? Even now, if you were to take it and rewrite it into text, how do you write down choreography? Very difficult.
Other comments or reactions? So right there in the second row, and then in the second row, and then in the back.
Thank you. It was amazing. My question, like lots of questions that I want to ask you, but the one is about the water scene. It was really ethereal. It was just like, how did that come together? It was just stunning.
Lighting.
The drama of the ghost.
Andrew knows the chance.
I had never worked with puppets before as an actor. I'm getting on now, I know, so it's been a long time. But wanted to work with them for 40 years, and then finally had this chance. And then to work with these people, it was absolutely revelatory for me, because it spoke absolutely to what I love about theatre, and that it is a craft, a construction of, Stanislavski spoke about a score of physical actions, precisely that. And that's what an actor is doing. You know, I'm not a method actor. I don't sit here and emote and have you witness that. My job is to craft a series of actions, vocalities, emotional signals, which stimulate the audience to have their own experience, you know, and then to watch the puppet do that practically with such precision and such delicate subtlety, you know. So the minute you're given the task, okay, we're going to do the scene of drowning the goat, this mammoth, epic thing that must happen, and the way that they will go through each second to look at it rhythmically, to see what's the position of this hoof as opposed to that one there, where's the lever that has to get out. So it's about grueling repetition, and at the same time making sure that when you do get it, it's embodying something true. You know, you're not just masking something. So it's the most amazing craft that every night I sit and watch them, you know, in awe. Sometimes, if I didn't tonight, forget to go on because it's just so captivating. But it is just hard, precision work that makes it work.
I remember the moments exactly, because the designer and myself had spoken about it for weeks, about how we're going to, can't make a pool on stage, you know, a dam, or and we're in the room, and I was with Adrian. He was unhappy about the goat walking on the floor. You know, he said it didn't look like he wanted it to look. And then I said, well, maybe we must lift, you know, maybe that was the idea, to lift, you know, the surface, and then you know, there's our dam. It was like epiphany. And he was so happy because the goat could jump between these, we call them dola spits, you know, because puppets have to land somewhere. So these have all been created as a surface for the puppets to sit on or walk on or jump on. And so it opened up a whole world for us, because now the goat could jump, we could see underwater, and then we could use the sound effects and the lighting, and it all came together. But I know like Rosh is doing the goat, that took hours and weeks of practice to get it right, to get it believable.
I think one thing that's important that you tend to forget, even we, or every time we make a new show and you work with people that haven't done puppetry before, is everyone wants to treat them like actors, but you forget that actors, they just walk and pick something up if they want to. So every time you have a new idea, you really need to analyze, as you said, every movement, because they need to learn to walk first, and they need to learn how to pick this up, and then you obviously then have to make the decision, how are they going to pick this up? So every movement is a decision that you really consciously make, whereas an actor can just go, yeah, let's just change that. Every time someone says, let's change that, it's a change that you potentially have to rehearse for weeks. So you start analyzing movement so much more.
It just reminded of, we had the scene where Mama's house, the bed was facing the other way.
Oh God, yeah.
The bed. For weeks and weeks we had rehearsed that. And then I suddenly remembered, like, in a black culture, you don't sleep with your head facing the door. So now we had to change everything because culturally it just wouldn't be right.
And that means that you
rehearsals.
Exactly. Because one person is in charge of one hand. That suddenly means a person that before was on the other hand has to completely learn something different, and you change everything.
Oh, no, sorry. There.
No, I was just saying, my experience of directing has really been probably one of the most difficult things. And for the actors as well, you know, we talk about the narration. I mean, it's not normal dialogue or speech. It's complex narration. So for me, I was very lucky to have the likes of Sandra and Billy and Andrew who are so good with text, and then Faniswa joins after the mum dies. You know, because it's difficult text, and to make it sound, flowing and natural and connected, it's a difficult piece to do.
We had a question up there in the back, and I saw a hand towards the middle, and then we'll bring it probably towards a close after that.
I haven't read the book, but I was fascinated by the children. I thought they were absolutely enchanting. And I wondered were they there as light relief, or whether their role in the play, or in the play, was as in the book.
We took some license there. There are children in the camp, and they do like Michael, but there's no actual scene with dialogue or anything. We obviously made that up. And of course those, I think one needs a bit of lightness in the play, and I think it comes at the right time. Yeah. So we improvised, we created those scenes.
And then here in the middle, where was it? Okay. Somebody down here? Okay, go ahead here. Oh, sorry, wait. So
There's
right
one
next.
in the front here.
Yeah, right there. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you very much. That's amazing. My question would be about the development of the puppets. How were Michael and his mom as a puppet? How did they come to life? I mean, as a design? Could you say something about it?
Lara, you might need to answer that.
Pardon?
I'm not familiar with how.
Yeah, I was very much there. So in the book and in the play, we talk about the Kamiskroon killer, the guy that killed the farmer. So it's not actually in that pie scene, but we put it in that scene. And some people suggest that John Coetzee based Michael Kay on that Kamiskroon killer. So the man that murdered the farmer for not paying him. So that was our inspiration for the face of Michael. More the face of Michael. Not that's where the hair lip came in. That's in the book. So I'm not sure why John chose to do that, except to make him the outsider. But so Adrian spends a lot of time drawing, very careful drawings, not sketches, like very, very carefully crafted drawings. In scale, we always knew it was going to be a puppet that would be 2/3 the size of a person, just because they're easier or better to manipulate. So he would, from the beginning, he started drawing in scale and came up with a face, and we had many conversations about the face, and then finally, the body made of that
cane,
which obviously is lighter, but is also very, very beautiful. So those were all Adrian's decisions. And the look of Michael and the look of Mama Kay were also got involved in what would I like, what do I see, or what do I think she looks like.
I can speak to the body and the sculptural development in terms of handsprings art, in that when they did Warhorse, they started working with this cane and revealing the structure. And they've it sparked a whole. From then on, they continue to work with this because it is light, it's flexible, but it's also very beautiful, and you can see through it. So you can see with Warhorse, you can see sometimes you see the puppets. Depends on how it's lit. If it's backlit, you see the puppeteers through the body, and you see the structure. If it's front lit, it becomes solid. So with Michael, it's a development of that. In fact, I don't think Adrian has ever made a puppet with a body like Michael's ever. So he's got flexibility in his rib cage. Normally the rib cage just ends below the sternum, and then you have a spine or something that resembles a spine. But this has got all the ribs, and with tendons, so there are elastics between each rib that join to the actual pelvis. So yeah, it gives him a lot of flexibility. He can do amazing things with his body, and he can breathe beautifully. So he can really, you can get an incredible flexibility in the rib cage for breathing and breath. And what he also does is he carves the face, and then, bless him, to make it lighter, he cuts that in half. So he makes this exquisite carving, and then he cuts it in half, and he chisels out the inside and glues it back together, just to give us weight. Because every button, every zip, every press stud adds weight. So yeah, he's gone out of his way to make it as light as possible, as well as an extraordinarily beautiful sculpture.
So to move towards closing here, this play and novel are based on a fictitious civil war. We could probably each draw our own connections in terms of current conflicts, precarity, displacement of people individually, internally within countries, or beyond. So there's all those perhaps points of connection. You asked us at the beginning, Lara, what you were interested in our reactions. I'm interested to close here what you think about yourselves as performers and puppeteers when doing this show, or what you'd like us to leave thinking about or reflecting on. Yeah.
Can I go?
Oh.
To check permission. In a way, it was something that Lara described, that Michael, in a way, embodies the possibility of hope. And Adrian said as well, the image at the end where he says, if you take a spoon and you can lower it down every day and just have a little bit of water in a spoon, you can live, you can survive that, despite the terrifying circumstances in which people survive. And in South Africa now, and many places in the world, many people live like that, survive like that, with nothing. And in a way, Michael, because of his ability to never take part in self-pity, or he lowers his dignity, that he stands up all the time, never begs, never backs down. He just is himself. He has a clear commitment to a thing, and he survives. So he becomes like a prophet of hope, So that, because at home now, you see Michael everywhere, all the time, surviving. So he embodies that, and the way that the puppets are structured, and the way the actors work with the puppets, it embodies that ability to take care of each other, to watch three people make one person, involves them to be absolutely empathetic and in tune with the person next to them, listening to them, taking care of each other. So the way in which I feel like we as a company take care of each other in performance, that embodies what the hope that Michael carries. So even above the text, beyond James Coetzee, just what happens on the stage it's revelatory every night for me.
Thank you for the beauty of that statement, for the generosity of your presence on stage tonight and staying late with us here. So a final round of applause.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. For more episodes, visit giaf.ie or find the First Thought podcast on any podcast platform. First Thought is presented in association with the University of Galway.